Alright, 6 o'clock, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Start with the consent agenda. Previous minutes. Oh,
Can you shut the door?
previous minutes, I'll, everybody put the bills up. Entertain a motion. Okay, Sarah's made the motion. Shaylee?
Well, she's muted, at least. If she's there.
Courtney, can you speak into the computer and let her ask if she can hear?
Shaylee, can you hear? Shaylee, you're muted if you can hear us.
We're gonna have to wait till she gets in this thing because she's a quorum.
Cap can't hear us either.
Try now.
Cap says she can hear you.
Shaylee, can you hear us?
Start video button. So I know that. Shaylee is driving. She did not know we were gonna need her for a quorum tonight. So I know that she will be back home before 6:30 is what she told me. My guess is she's probably in that little dead zone in the Sheldon area.
Lynn, if you can hear me, I'm on.
Thank you, Shaylee. We can hear you now.
Shaylee, I had a motion to approve the previous minutes. I'm doing by roll. So Shaylee?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Cool.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, policy, we'll do the first reads. I don't know if everybody's read those or not, but I'll entertain a motion. So questions or concerns or discussion.
Are you only gonna do the first read or are you doing them all together?
I can do them all together.
So I have something to say about the policy. So this looks a little different than it typically does in your board packet because you have two policies that are coming out of order. These two policies were in a late bill during the legislative session. The fire and emergency preparedness drills and the access control and visitor management. So those will be heading to policy tomorrow, so they're coming out of order to you, but in the bill that was passed, they're required to be approved by August 1st. So we're doing our best to at least get them through one read with each of our two district boards.
Everybody all set? There's no discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, who made a motion? Shaylee?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, prioritization. Lynn, do you need to move anything for prioritization?
Do not.
Okay. And visitors? I guess for the
Spotlight.
spotlight?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. And we'll move into the spotlight then. Kelly?
Oh, Solid.
It's
That's
up
us.
to you.
That's us. Okay, sorry. Okay. Can you pull us up, please? So I have Lori McGraw and Katie Sharon here tonight who are going to go through the spotlight with us. They're going to be presenting also. So, so there's a couple of different things that we want to present tonight. Both are around our teaming structures that we have created, are continuing to create. This is really a work in progress. You can go next. This one, pull up mine too. Okay, so we're going to talk about instructional teams, and then we're going to do kind of a quick overview of Leader in Me and our partnership with them this year. Okay, so we're doing a workshop, a 4-day workshop this summer with Arizona State University. I have a small group of teachers that will be doing that with me. This comes from a conversation that Lynn and I had earlier in the school year. Arizona State University has been doing kind of a pilot with a number of schools across the country. They really are in their infancy also with some of the teaming structures that they're developing, but they've done this as a result of a number of different things that we'll talk about, and certainly things that all of us as administrators have experienced. So lack of staffing for various reasons, people resigning, like basically whatever the reasons are, not having enough people to staff your programs in your classrooms. And so some of the work that we'll be doing in the workshop with them this summer is really talking about the philosophy of teaming differently, and then also just some of the logistics. Like how are you even taking a cohort of students and figuring that out in PowerSchool, for example. Okay. One of the things that we have put into place this year, started last year and then did more so this year, was our teaming structures around kindergarten and first grade for literacy, and then a little bit more for math. So we kind of came at this not so much from we don't have teachers in those classrooms as everybody being in a little bit of heightened anxiety coming out of COVID and seeing that students, where students were academically and really wanting to beef up the instruction, and the certified staff and the specialists who are really providing that. So, Katie, take it away.
Yeah. So, for some reason the model's not up there, but basically that has the MTSS layers. If you click again, maybe Courtney will. Oh, you can go back. Oh, there it is.
It was on mine.
I can see it.
So basically before COVID, and then COVID just enhanced the fact that we're like, we have a problem, our kids aren't coming out reading where we want them to be. So what do we need to do to, get them there in reading? So Kelly and I were brainstorming and decided we wanted more certified educators to be able to push in, especially in kindergarten, so that it's not just the classroom teachers providing a lot of that instruction, but interventionists as well. Because we were finding that we had so many kids needing intervention that it just wasn't feasible. And what we're asking of our classroom teachers can't happen in one classroom by themselves, even if teachers are just pushing in during that intervention block. So you're like, we need to do something, we need to make a change, what can we do? So it started with last year's kindergarten class, and another interventionist and myself were dedicating about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes in kindergarten every day. And we also had paras helping as well. So as you can see going along the continuum, the other interventionists and myself are providing universal instruction as well as intervention every single day, and we're giving everybody double dose. So we're finding, it's not working the way that we have it, so we have to restructure it. And we're meeting kids where they're at. If they're coming in knowing their letters, we're gonna make them reading as soon as they have all those skills. We're not waiting for the rest of the class to catch up with the tier 1 and tier 2 instruction. So we put all of that in place, and also paraeducators and special educators are pushing in, and they have assigned roles as well. So during that 60-minute block, you can move on to the next one, that's okay. I'm ready for it. During that 60-minute block, kids are with adults most of the time getting very targeted instruction, whether it's conferencing, guided reading, intervention, or extension. With this model, we are able to take our kids who are meeting or exceeding and really push that and give them what they need to keep exceeding. Special educator pushes in as well. Paraeducators have groups where they're just not providing that first instruction, but continuing with what has already been taught for just more practice of the skill. So some of our kids during that 60-minute block have a very small window where they're not with an adult. And we found last year that doing that, we had a lot of success. And so we did it again this year. And in first grade, the model looks different. We don't have that many supports in reading because we didn't need that many supports in reading now. So, next slide. Jump in if you have anything to say.
Try going forward and backward again because it worked last time.
So this is the STAR 360 data from our current kindergarten class. That is the computerized assessment that any of you know. So this was just taken beginning of June, and we have 76-ish% of students who are meeting proficiency in reading at the end of kindergarten. The blue is on watch, so maybe they're intervention, maybe they're not, but just keep a close eye. Yellow is students in intervention, and 3 is urgent intervention. Those titles don't mean, they mean a lot for data for us, but it doesn't, we're not just giving intervention to the yellows and reds. The blues are getting it, even some of the greens are getting it. Yes. The next slide is this year's first grade class, which is actually similar in the model proficiencies. And this has been maintained from last year. They also are coming out in a really good place with less people. So we don't have the staff to do the kindergarten model as much in reading for first grade, but still with some aspects of it, they're still making good gains. Obviously, we want it to be 100, but we're proud of the work that they're doing and the success that they've had. So basically, we're like this is going really well. We need to do this school-wide, right? So that's where Lynn talked to Kelly, and Lori will present math in a second too, because math is amazing as well. And we're like, okay, we have to do this school-wide. Obviously, this is just beginning stages. We want to make it better, so that's where the next generation stuff.
The thing I would just add about the data is, obviously we're looking for green across the board. We know that there are students that come in at all different places. And there are some students who are always going to have a harder time making gains. But we are constantly looking for growth in all students. It's not, yes, we talk about, yes, so-and-so might be on an IEP, but that student is not excused from making growth. Right? We are making sure we want all of our students to make growth, whether they're on an IEP, not on an IEP, 504, EST, no matter what they're coming to us with for the plan. Those plans really should just support them more in terms of making their growth. Next slide.
So, and this was partly out of necessity, but we, with the success that Katie had in kindergarten last year, so there was 2 reasons we did it, There's 23 students in our first grade classroom, and we knew for math it would be really hard to meet all those needs with one teacher in the classroom. The other piece is Katie had success doing some of that small group work with actually the same group of kids the year before. So the first grade teacher and I got together, and we kind of designed this partnership where she does a mini lesson every day with the entire group. And she's done VMI and stuff, so she's a very accomplished math teacher. But then we split out into some smaller groups that rotate through, much like the kindergarten groups do. And I do a double dip with every kid every day. So I have a group of maybe 5 or 6 kids that come to me. We do something interactive based on maybe the PNOA data results, maybe based on some skills that we know first graders traditionally struggle with. But we do something together every day. And so they make it through these 4 stations. Some days we have a paraeducator, some days we don't, and that's okay because of the way the station's designed, that it could go either way. The paraeducator does some kind of skill review. And then our math interventionist pulls out during this time and just pulls out from one of those stations, wherever the kid may be or kids may be, and puts them back in. So she's only actually seeing about 4 kids because of the success that we've been having in math. She sees it's either 4 or 5. This doesn't take a super lot of time, so it is a commitment, but it's less than an hour for me as the math interventionist or math lead, and it worked really, really well for us. The other piece that's really nice is if the classroom teacher's out, because I'm in there already, I can just jump into that spot and do that role, and the interventionist actually will then jump into my spot. Or if I'm out for a meeting or I'm out for some reason, the interventionist just jumps into my spot. So it's, as from the kids' point of view, it's pretty seamless when we have, an adult out of that classroom. We can still teach to all the kids' needs, and we can still kind of follow our model. So if you turn, our data looks like this. So our green is the 50th percentile and above. So we have those kiddos that are working at the 50th percentile, meaning across the country they're either matching or exceeding what other students are doing on this particular assessment. And then we do have some kids that are in our other areas, and again they see an interventionist, because it really, out of that group, I think that's about 4 or 5 kids that are either in the blue or the yellow on that. So they see an interventionist in addition to the rotations that they're experiencing every day.
One of the things that I would say about the intervention piece, like a couple of, we've included on a couple of different slides the layers of our MTSS system, our multi-tiered systems of support. So, the universal is your layer 1, level 1, then level 2, and 2 is kind of your double dip, kind of, but 3 is your much more targeted intervention. And there's kind of a 4A, 4B, and then 5, which is completely alternative. 4A, 4B being like a much more intense, IEP, EST. So ensuring that when Lori is pushing in, she's doing that level 2, that double dip. The other interventionist, math interventionist, is level 3. Like, we're being clear about the skills that we're targeting and the level of skills that we're targeting with kids, so that it's not just pushing in and supporting kids. It's a very specific instruction that people are going in or pulling out to do.
And across the board, some of the things our kids struggle with might be like in the area of vocabulary, both in math and in literacy, and they get that extra time in a small group with an adult, actually with at least 2 or 3 adults, depending on the situation. And it just kind of, I think, boosts those pieces for us too. I have to say, I think that we're riding a little bit on the literacy coattails when it comes to math, because I think some of those reading skills and those comprehension skills are benefiting kids when we look at math, and hopefully vice versa here somewhere. So, okay, so we're moving into the next education workforce piece. Lynn, I think, came to us or came to Kelly and talked about this group at Arizona State University that is starting to study and look at different models for teaming in schools, both in elementary and middle school, high school. And so I think there's a slide before this. Is there one before this?
No, it's out.
Yep, right there. Nope, that's the one. Okay, so and they have a different lens than we have, which is kind of neat. So they're looking at it from systems and structures in some ways, like how does this help the school as a whole to have this kind of teaming model going on. So this is a typical set of these slides, by the way, are from them. I have to give them credit. This is a typical set of 4 classrooms. This might be for us a grade 2 and grade 3, or a grade K and grade 1. And traditionally, when we've been able to be staffed, which isn't necessarily the situation right now, but we have 2 teachers at grade 2, 2 teachers at grade 3, 14 to 18 students maybe in a classroom. And really the teachers do most of the instruction. We've always done some planning together, looking at data together. It's something we've done great over time for years. But this would be kind of the model that kids would experience being in the classroom. And then this happens. So there's a teacher out. So could be just someone sick, could be a maternity leave, could be a surgery, so a longer time, could be a resignation, and we have had all 4 of those this year, unfortunately for us. So all of a sudden a teacher's out, and then what happens for that classroom? So a sub covers. Again, that's something that we're experiencing across the district and across everywhere. Having getting subs is slim pickings and not usually, doesn't always happen. In the case of when we had a teacher resign, we spread our students into the other 2 classrooms that were left, and again, that was tricky. I think if we tighten up our teaming model, that kind of situation will be better for the students, and they can have a better experience if something like that were to happen. Hopefully no one else resigns. But we have teachers that cover, like Katie and I have both had to cover. There's other teachers in the office that have had to cover. And so we step into the classroom, but then it leaves a lot of other things not happening that would normally happen. So that again is tricky, especially if it's over 5 or 6 days and we have to like break up our schedule. So those are all things that are short-term solutions that have happened for us. There's also this piece. So this is an equity piece. So if you can turn to the next slide, it explains a little more on the next slide. Oh, go back. Oh, they're coming. They're arriving slowly. Yeah, there we go. All right. So here, there's a 2nd and 3rd grade teachers say, and there's 4 different teachers that come with 4 different experiences. So on the far right, there's a 1st-year teacher. The far left, there might be a 15th-year teacher who's a veteran that has a lot of, great skills. Somewhere in between are the other teachers, and all the teachers bring skills to the table. They all bring personality. They all bring ways that they relate to students, which are all strengths. And however, like if you're, where would you want your child? And what would you want to do? So if we create a teaming model around a group of students that some of these educators get to like swap out for maybe math or reading or do some of the planning together, their strengths then play together to create a good experience for our kids. They'll show up. It's just slow loading. There you go. I didn't know it was like that. Actually, I guess we never played our slideshow in quite this way. So instead, here's the group of students again, and around that group of students are the teachers that have taken different roles. So there's like a lead teacher maybe for math and the lead teacher for ELA, and then they partner with the other teachers. There's a special educator that partners in, much like Katie had in her model when the special educator actually worked in the classroom during that time and came in. Katie and I, the specialists in the building, work in a team. Paraeducators, maybe they're working on micro-credentials and they work in a team. So that all around those students is this group, and scheduling's done around what works best for different people's strengths. The 72 kids would never be in the classroom at the same time, but it would be, that would be like that picture. But it would be a situation that we could move adults around. It would be very like mindful, and the way that we would plan for all the different layers of MTSS so that we could meet the students' needs as best as possible.
I would say, like, we're not there yet.
No.
Certainly it's a shift in philosophy. It's also a physical thing in your building. Mm-hmm. Like, you really have to have your rooms near each other.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just,
scheduling.
So it's an awful lot of things to think about.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're gonna go to, so I think you said this already, but this summer we're gonna do a 4-day kind of workshop, and hopefully we'll get some other ideas in addition to the ones that we're already using and already having to get some insight. So this just is an overview. You can click on one more time. There you go. I also really like the way that these models work with newer teachers, like partnering more experienced teachers with newer teachers. And also just the way things are right now, things can be difficult in the classrooms, and so it's a lot of support. The teachers that have been receiving support from Katie and I have both said it's like some of the best parts of their day. Like they like it when we're all in there working together. They get to meet with their own students, 4 or 5 kids at a time. They really like that part of their day. So I look forward to bringing it across the building. It's, and the groupings aren't something new to us, like we've done reading groups for years, we've done math groups for years, but just the way it's organized is just a little different in the way that we're thinking about planning and those kinds of things, so.
And then with all things, there's a book, so, which I did buy for my team. You know, which will go along with some of the work we're doing this summer. Okay, then just a real quick shift into the next piece. Again, so we're working with Leader in Me. This will be a very quick overview. Go ahead. So this year, we partnered with Leader in Me, which is, if any of you are familiar with Stephen Covey's work in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that was one of his first books, productions. Now there's habits of, highly effective habits of families, of students. There's several different publications. A number of years ago, there was a teacher, a principal working in a school who really needed to transform her school. And she looked at leadership. She ended up partnering, leadership for her kids. She ended up partnering with the Franklin Covey organization, and together they created Leader in Me. So part of the organizational structure of Leader in Me is creating a leadership team. They call their leadership team the Lighthouse Team. So we spent this year, well, this is the summary in a minute to what we've done, but principal, 2 coordinators that will then take over some of the work that I wouldn't have to do. If there's, for example, onboarding with new staff, they do that work. And then there's 2 leaders for the leadership action team, the culture action team, the academic action team. All of those leaders together with the 2 coordinators and the principal make up the Lighthouse team or the school's leadership team. All other teachers, certified staff are required to be part of one of those 3 action teams. So we'll spend some time this summer looking at all of the teaming structures that we already have and doing some consolidating. Go ahead. So Leader in Me really looks at 5 core paradigms. Sorry, did I just mess that up? So everyone can be a leader. All students can be a leader. Everyone has genius. Genius starts with me, empowering students to lead their own learning, and educators and families partner together. There's a really big emphasis on partnering with communities and families. A really big engagement piece. And that's it. That's gonna be the last one. So I think we missed one slide. So year 1, we spent this year just on staff, like just getting staff familiar with the 7 habits. We had a 2-day workshop in August, which was phenomenal. It was great. And these are the 7 habits. Year 2 will be, it's called Core 1. We'll have a day's work in August with teachers, and then they'll be bringing like that work and those habits to students. I have one of my school counselors that will also be doing some work this summer to align, there's a whole SEL piece that goes with this. She'll be aligning that with our priority standards in the supervisory union. And so we'll be rolling this out to kids next year. And just really talking to them about leadership. 2 of the focuses of the 3 action teams will be on the leadership and the culture. The following year, which is core 2, will be really focusing on the academics. That doesn't mean that we don't focus on academics next year. It just means in year 3, we'll be creating what they called WIGs, wildly important goals. So we'll be creating wildly important goals around our academics. I would argue we already have some, but we'll be creating more, I guess. So anyway, we're also hoping that this will really help with, just bringing some other organizational structure to some of the different teams that we have, and just really building some leadership skills among the kids.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you. It's exciting to see the progress that you've made with the creative way that you have teamed already, and I'm excited to see what comes out of the work that you're preparing to do with the next ed workforce people. They're quite inspiring. And your Leader in Me stuff is really exciting too.
Yeah, I would agree. Actually, the school I came from in Texas, I was on the PTA, they use Leader in Me.
Oh, did they? No.
Yes, and it was transformational to the population and the culture and the character building for the students. So I'm excited to see that you found this and are going with it.
Good.
Great program. Well done.
Thank you.
Morgan, you're up next.
Okay, I'm still waiting on allowable tuition numbers for FY '22. Looks like we've got 17 days before we can get them into this fiscal year. And I would not put any amount of money on that we'll actually see them. I'm bringing two motions to you. The first is around the tax revenue anticipation note. So this is something that we get each year at this time of year, and it allows us to borrow money in July, August, September when we need it in order to pay those bills while we're waiting for the state to start the money that comes from them, which is September, and the town's taxes come in September, October, November. And so if you are so inclined, I would like a motion to approve and sign the tax revenue anticipation note and related documents, including the borrowing resolution and tax certificate for a straight line of credit not to exceed $1 million with Community Bank NA to June 28th, 2024.
Okay, entertain a motion.
Make the motion.
Okay, Sarah's made the motion. Shaylee?
Aye.
Sarah?
Alright.
Aye.
McCoy?
Yes.
And I'm aye.
Okay.
And I'll pass this around. It actually needs to be signed by a majority of the board. So there are 3 places to sign. Doesn't matter which line you sign on, probably should be the same one in each of the 3 places. And then I'll chase Holly down for the 4th signature.
So Morgan, is this something that you typically have to go through every year then?
We do have payroll through the summer. We have run into situations in the past where one of our towns had not filed its grand list in time, and so the state doesn't get the numbers that they need to know how much money to give us. And so we had 2 years in a row where we were expecting payments in September, and they didn't come until later in the year. The second item for consideration is around the Sugar House, and so I put some background information in my report. The short story is that because of a few reasons, we're going to move forward with this as a traditional construction project, so that if we're bidding it out as a single unit, it makes the project big enough that there are rules that we have to follow in terms of Vermont bid law. And the first of these is to have the board approve pre-qualification criteria. The way the process works is we go over that tonight. We say, okay, here are the criteria we want for people to be considered to build this for us. Contractors submit their qualifications. There'll be a process where we look them over and we say, okay, you 5 are allowed, you 2 are not allowed. And then we move forward with a bid and only these 5 are allowed to bid. What that means is that of these 5, you're now obligated to take the low bidder. Whereas in a smaller project that was under that threshold, you have a little more flexibility to take any of the lowest 3 bids. So it's a process that we want to take seriously because anybody that you pre-qualify could be the person building your building. The architect that we're working with has been making phone calls to the usual suspects that we see on bids. We're pretty confident we're going to get one outfit bidding on it. We're hopeful there'll be more, but a lot less confident based on what people have in their queue in terms of projects. the pre-qualification, the criteria were linked in your packet. I can put them up there. They are pretty basic and pretty straightforward, and these are ones that we vetted for the building project that we did in Berkshire 10 years ago. We took a few items out because it wasn't really relevant. That project was going on for over a school year with kids around, and this is a little bit more manageable. So I'm happy to answer any questions on those pre-qualification criteria. I'm happy to jump in any suggestions if folks have them. And then if there are none and you're ready to move it, we just want a motion to approve the pre-qualification criteria for the Cold Hollow Sugar House project.
Okay, any discussion, comments? Okay, entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Sarah made a motion, Shaylee? Sarah's an aye, cool.
Aye.
I'm an aye.
So I will be coming to the next step of that. I'm actually not certain if the board needs to do the pre-qualifying or kind of bless the contractors, or if we're allowed to do that. There's some new interpretation of bid law that's come out of the AOE recently that we're all kind of run back on our heels about. And so because I'm anticipating that we won't have 3 bids and we'll have to go to them and ask for a waiver since we didn't have 3 bids, we want to make sure we do all the interim steps correctly. And unless you have any questions, that's all I've got tonight.
Okay, Lynn?
Okay. Back to the screen here. Sorry, I lost my screen. I sign back in here. Okay, so Courtney has most of this in a slideshow for us. I just want to have some extra notes down here I want to make sure I can have access to. So we're going to start off with personnel. And so we have some hiring requests in there. So everything that's in bold is action. I will go over all of those because some may have changed since you received your board packet. So for Cold Hollow, we have Morgan Flanagan as the new construction technology teacher. Enosburg High School PE teacher Rochelle Gregason. I'm not really sure how I did there, Matt. You can welcome to.
We'll work on our Filipino pronunciation
Okay.
together.
Richford Elementary School, Lisa Conger for math and literacy intervention. Kayla DaCosta for kindergarten. Richford Junior Senior High School, Katie Glidden, school nurse. Robert Fair, your current dean of students, will be, his day will be modified a little bit, so he'll be a 0.4 FTE driver's ed teacher in addition to dean. Taylor Soul will be a 0.25 health teacher, and then she'll be working under an SU contract for the remaining portion of her time as a family engagement coordinator for Richford High School. So I'd ask the board to make a motion to approve all of that hiring. The other support staff that's in there is all informational for you.
Alright, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, who made the motion? Shaylee? Sarah?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Okay, resignations are all informational. You have several open positions that are listed there. Do you want me to read those?
We have one less. We got a reading interventionist.
Perfect. I signed that today, actually.
Yes.
You have several personnel requests, and I'm wondering if you wanted me to identify those now, and do you want to go at those at the end?
Let's do it at the end.
Okay, so you want me to identify them now?
Sure.
So you have Jonah Frank, Enosburg High School science teacher, had a need to take a day, and he had a half a day left, and it was It was emergent. I approved it, given that you didn't have a board meeting, so it asked you to take formal action to approve that half day that he did not have available as an unpaid day. Liza Bordeaux, who is a Richford High School math teacher, is requesting 2 days for the fall. She's got weddings that are one right after another, one on November 11th and one on November 17th between Virginia and Key West. So she's got a request. She would like the board to consider allowing her those 2 days. Whether her request included carrying forward 2 personal days or approving her use of those days in lieu of some summer work or as unpaid days. And you have a request from Rachel Reynolds, who sadly, this will be Rachel's last board meeting with us. And I will just say, I'm gonna stop here and just say something first. I wanna thank Rachel. I know that we did this with our leadership team, but Rachel's just been an amazing leader for us at FNESU and has made contributions that will have a lasting impact on our organization and on the students and staff that she has served. So I want to applaud Rachel for her good work. Rachel is leaving us with 10 days of vacation that she has earned but not been able to take. So she has a request for some compensation for those days. Doug LaCrosse is head custodian at Enosburg Middle High School. He is retiring after 11 years of service with us. He has combined time off 280 hours that he has not used, approximately 35 days. So he's making a request related to compensation for those days as well. So we'll take those up at the end.
Yes.
Lynn, Katie Jeware sent you something. Do you want me to forward it to you?
I missed that.
I'll forward it to you so you have it again. And it's a wedding.
I've got it. So Katie has a request for, I did see this and I forgot to go back to it. She has something coming up, and I'll share those details when we talk about this in the end, but she's requesting from September 18th to the 28th off. She would have 3 personal days that she could use towards it. She's asking for 6 days of unpaid leave time to be able to use towards this leave. And this is a pretty important trip for her. And I can explain in more detail later.
And Jay Farnham didn't request, I probably forgot to tell him to, but he was very sick and all his time is up and I don't know how many days. I think
It's
he
okay.
went.
I'm gonna ask for permission for something a little
Okay,
later on.
okay.
And then
All right.
I think we'll be good.
But I don't think you requested it. It's probably
No,
my
you didn't.
fault. Okay.
Okay. To my notes. All right, ready for me to move on?
Yes.
So, student, we have nothing
Wait,
under
what about-
student this month.
Wait, what
I
about
do have,
in personnel, you had the side letter.
oh, thank you, I skipped over that, because it wasn't on this note, I added it to that. So, Nate had requested a while ago, consideration, there is a tech center, Nate, I'm gonna ask you to jump in, because I'm not going to get this correct. It's a tech center conference that happens in August. And Nate was hoping to be able to have all of his people go to this conference. It's a 2-day conference. Our master agreement is very clear that you can't count days as in service if they come greater than 10 days prior to the start of the school year. So Nate, we made the request of the union. Nate had to meet with his staff and had to have complete agreement that this is what they wanted to do, and they did agree that they wanted to go to this conference and have it be considered 2 days of their in-service. So the request is for the board to approve a side letter, and I'll just pass that down as an exception to the master agreement to allow for 2 days to be used prior to more than 10 days prior to the start of the school year. Nate, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, it's all of the Vermont Tech Centers getting together for 2 days of professional development. August 15th and 16th. And every school kind of takes a different approach of how some pay their teachers. Some use in-service time, some use comp time, so there's no, systematic way that every school across the state allows it or does this, so this is the way we wanted to approach it.
You wanna do that at the end too?
You can do it at the end, or you can, if there's, you can
Is
take
there any
this
discussion on
separately.
it? Any concerns?
No concerns. Your recommendation, Lynn, is that when you told me?
To approve the side letter, yes.
Okay.
So I make a motion.
Okay, who makes a motion? Shaylee?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Thank you. Let me hand that back to you and have you sign that for. Thank you, Courtney. I could not see that from this distance. So we've got student, nothing under student, and then we will move into summer hiring. So there are two pieces here that, one of them speaks to Beth's concern previously. The first is I'm gonna ask that the board make a motion to grant me the authority to continue hiring away from the table over the summer months. And then the second will be to grant me the authority to approve any needed unpaid leave from our professional staff between now and the end of the year, since you don't have another board meeting before that.
Any comments, discussion? Okay, entertain motion.
Make a motion.
Okay, Sarah makes a motion. Shaylee?
Aye.
Cool.
Aye.
And I'm an aye.
Was that for the first one?
That's for both, but I can do it first.
Okay. We'll merge them together into two. Okay. Next up is legislative summary. Did we miss that one, Courtney?
I don't know.
So the legislative summary is a little complicated because the legislative session, Morgan's gonna help me with this part, has ended with the governor vetoing the budget. So we're a little bit in limbo. There are still a few things hanging out there that are not concluded during the legislative session. Neither the School Boards Association, BPA, or VSA has issued any sort of legislative summary because people don't know really what the timeline is for the next steps. I believe there's gonna be a veto session and there's gonna be some conversation about budget. Can you jump in here? You wanna do more of this research than I?
Yeah, I think nobody really knows. There's a group of legislators that normally would vote to override a veto of the governor, who are holding out for more money for the homeless program for the hotels that have been cut. What I had heard from somebody who's paying a lot of attention to this and watching it is they suspect that there'll be an override, there'll be a vote to override, it'll fail, they'll pass a budget with more money, that'll get vetoed, and they'll be able to override that. But we don't know what the timeline is. When I last checked, they hadn't actually scheduled any override votes yet, so it's all up in the air.
So the question is, what happens on July 1 if there's no budget? What happens to the agency of education? Is there a furlough? Is this? We're not really sure.
Yeah, and I asked that question and I said, if this doesn't pass, are you gonna be answering phone calls on July 1? And it seemed like that was the first they had heard of it. I thought of that because it's been at least 10 years, if not longer, forever, that we've been in this situation. I have been told that the information to get tax rates set and tax bills out was in a different bill, and so they're gonna be able to move forward on that, and they're gonna get that out before the end of the fiscal year if possible. So I'm not anticipating any problem with tax money coming in due to that, at least. I was picked up on Friday.
Do you need more PCBs you want to share?
I don't remember what we've told this board, but There's an allotment for PCB remediation. Half of it is kind of reserved for Burlington, which has the project that we've all heard about. The remaining half will maybe cover 4 good-sized projects in the state, and there's certainly more than that in the queue already. And we had asked in one of our meetings what the definition of remediation is. So if you have caulk with PCBs in all your windows, we know they're gonna, if you're in the queue in time, they're gonna pay to take the windows out, but are they gonna pay to put new windows back in? And no one really could answer that. So
legislative session ended with several big things still on the table, and in my opinion, many unanswered questions, some related to private schools receiving public funding and accountability measures and equitable practices for student entrance. And there are still some questions that were related to PCBs that were left on the table as well. So one of the things that I think most disappointed in this legislative session is that more was not done around mental health. And I think that when you talk to people in the field, both in the education field, in the medical field, in the mental health field, we're seeing unprecedented need, and we're seeing less services than we've had in a very long time. And we communicated pretty clearly with the legislature about that, and we saw some things go through. They were really not the kind of reform that I was hoping for. So we'll keep working on that for next year. So year-end summary, there are lots of really fun things happening. This time of year it's exciting to feel the buzz in schools. I was able to attend Kelly's whole school assembly this morning, which was really fun and really adorable to see all of the kids engaging in the school-wide celebration. Jen had the seniors from Enosburg High School over at the elementary school. Was it yesterday?
Today.
Yeah. That was just this morning.
That was
It's like it was at least a day ago. They did their walk down the hallway, so all of the high school grads were down and walked while all of the elementary students cheered them on, which is always really, really fun. Beth, I know you all just came back from your class trip.
Yeah.
Was it New York City?
Nope, that's the picture.
It's
definitely not the same.
Adventure Bound in
I
Maine,
just went to New York City.
Oh, cool.
like water
Adventure Bound.
rafting and ropes course.
Nice. Rachel, what was yours?
J-Peak, actually, is really, really fun.
Nice.
They have this, I don't know if anyone's been in Clips and Reels, but they have this high ropes course in there. And like, they just like latch in and it's kind of challenge by choice, and it's one of those like positive peer pressure situations where there were a couple kids who were nervous, but all their friends were trying it, and so everybody tried it. Like every single kid tried it.
That's great. Nice. So that was that Clips and Reels, Rachel?
Yeah.
Great.
Super cool place.
So I know I was able to attend Nate's end of the year gala, which it really is a pretty spectacular event where it really has a little bit of a red carpet feel. Students presenting nominees and opening the envelopes to see who was selected for each of the awards, and it's a really, really spectacular event. And I know, Nate, you had was it skills that happened that next day? Not skills. What was the event that happened?
FFA competitions.
Yeah, and do you have anything you want to report out about that?
Yeah, it's on my report. We did pretty well. So we'll be having some kids that will be representing us in nationals in October. But I don't have the agenda right in front of me of who placed where, but it is on the agenda when it's on my slide for my report.
So Nate will have kids going to nationals both in June and in October, which is really exciting. And I know we're getting ready at Enosburg High School for Mr. Webb's first graduation, which is exciting.
Yeah.
Some community service that was happening over at the park recently. And anything else you want to add?
Yeah, our senior awards night is tomorrow evening at Swiss and Bloom. Looking forward to that too.
Nice. So it's just a little glimpse. There's so much going on in each of our
Yes.
schools to wrap up this year, and it's been a long kind of winding year, and there's a good positive energy. Hoping we can all kind of ease into the end with as soft a landing as possible in each of our schools. Summer work. I'm going to do just a quick preview of the work that we have ahead for us this summer. Courtney, could you please click that link? So I wanted to give the board an opportunity to hear some of the professional learning opportunities that we have coming up. I'm going to have to click the link myself so that I can actually read it. I'm going to share this with you at the end so that you'll be able to see this yourself. So you know that we have 3 board goals that we're all mutually responsible for working towards at FNESU. So you'll see that much of the summer learning is targeted towards each of those board goals. So we have Teachers College Reading and Writing Project coming in July to work with grade 3 through 8 teachers, administrators, and coaches. There's a description there in the link. There's work that's happening in July, building a more equitable advisory system, and that's for middle and high school teachers, administrators, and students. Other work around social emotional learning, that's happening in mid-July, and there's a follow-up in August. And that's connected to our SEL priority standards and making the shift next year to universal instruction in SEL for all of our students. We have some circle work that's happening with Sweethearts and Heroes, and that's, I don't know if you saw on social media, I think it was Enosburg High School hosted, and Enosburg Middle and High School hosted.
And elementary.
And elementary. Sweethearts and Heroes earlier this spring or late in the winter.
February, yes.
And it was pretty fabulous. And some of the work they do is also with teachers, more in a professional learning capacity around the work they can do with circles. So there are some teachers who will be participating in that over the summer. And I know Matt's doing some targeted work with all Enosburg teachers in the fall around that, around in-service.
Not the elementary school, but.
No, at the middle high
haven't
school. Right?
quite sorted out the middle school level of participation, but definitely high school and possibly middle school.
Right.
Yeah. Yep, they're gonna come for 2 days and, is that okay?
Yeah.
We jumped into an advisory program this year, and one of the things we found teachers really needed was a level of comfort dealing with facilitating circles when students are having some of those more intensive conversations, or how to help kids get to that place so they're not kind of, being silly in order to not engage. And so Sweethearts and Heroes reached out to us in part because of, concerns about our community culture, given the news over the past year, some different things. And they said, well, we want to work with those folks. And so they came in and I said, well, actually this might be a really good use of some of our federal funds, because we can bring them back for 2 days and get some really intensive training and try to, jump ahead the faculty as a whole and their ability and confidence in doing it.
I just want to mention the work that they did in all the Enosburg schools and the work they'll be doing this summer. It's separate from what Matt's doing with his teachers. It was all sponsored by Champlain Chevrolet, so we're very appreciative of their sponsorship and bringing that opportunity to us here in Enosburg.
And the middle school's not excluding themselves. They've had 4 years of restorative justice and circle training already. So they've had the level 1 training the high school staffs may get, but they might still be involved in some of the topics in order to facilitate that work in the middle school.
So we also have work happening around our district equity improvement plan development. So you know that we have participated in an equity audit and with the Insight Education Group, and we've also at the school level been working to do a hidden curriculum audit. So we have teams of teachers, middle school students, middle or high school students. There hopefully will be some administrators, and Michelle asked me to extend an invitation to board members to participate in some of this work over the summer. We recognize that at the end of July, 3 days is a huge commitment, and you all have your own full-time jobs. If there's any portion of the day that you would like to participate in, any of the days, she would welcome your participation. There's going to be a follow-up email that goes out with some more details for board members. We also have Fountas and Pinnell word study work that's happening for teachers in grades 4 through 6. We have a Mind Play comprehensive reading course for educators targeted towards literacy teachers in pre-K through 6, coaches, administrators, special educators, interventionists, really intensive literacy professional learning. And then we have some math professional learning. It's called OGAP, Additive Reasoning course, and this is something that teachers in grades K through 2 will be experiencing or will have the opportunity to experience. All of these will be paid learning opportunities that we've been able to fund through grant money. We also have a book study that's happening around mathematics, building thinking classrooms in mathematics. Some of the offerings that we have are in person, some are asynchronous, some are a blended model. So there are several opportunities for teachers to engage in some really powerful professional learning over the summer. Back to my slide, Courtney. The other thing that we have going on right now is staff at central office are working hard to prepare for the Summer Leadership Institute that we have with all of our building principals and the rest of our leadership team. So that happens that last week of June, the 27th through the 30th, I believe. So we'll be meeting 3 days in Enosburg and 1 day in Burlington, and some of our topics are really focused on leadership development, really thinking about instructional leadership, supervision and evaluation, and having hard conversations. Those are all things that we'll be leaning into. The other thing that we'll be doing at that Leadership Institute is co-designing the professional learning, the needs-based professional learning plan for the next school year. And that's something that under Act 173, that's one of the levers, is to really use data to drive what that professional learning plan needs to be. So that's something we're going to co-design with the principals so that we could be working collectively and we can all be mutually responsible for that professional learning plan. We'll be focused on student-centered learning and system improvement work. So we have some teams that have been started in FNESU. We created a model, and this board hasn't had the opportunity to hear about this, but in Shelton, I think that most people know by now, we had a leadership turnover earlier this year, and we transitioned and ended up having 2 veteran administrators kind of be joint principals to get us through the year, and we created some shared leadership opportunities for teams of teachers in the school. Sorry. Centered on some of the urgent priorities for that building specifically. The model has been going really well, and some of the outcomes they're getting from those system improvement teams in Sheldon are pretty exciting. Bakersfield, Berkshire, Montgomery, Enosburg High School, and FNESU are developing a really similar shared leadership system improvement team model. For our system improvement team at the SU leadership level, will be focused on academic proficiency, social emotional learning proficiency, portrait of a learner, student-centered work, and staff recruitment and retention. So it's, you know, you can tell there's not much that goes on in the summer after kids leave, right? People, there's this misconception that people go on summer vacation, but there's really a lot that goes on behind the scenes as we prepare for the next school year. That's it on my end, Mark.
Okay. That brings us to Kelly.
Nothing, it's all informational, really nothing else to add, other than, you know, our focus really has been on what I talked about, when we talked about building our structures for next year.
Beth?
So I had one action item, and Morgan will help me with this, but I don't know if you remember, but a few years ago, we were approached by the town about buying a piece of property below this Richford High School sign. And used to be a building there, a small house, and we thought that it was in our best interest to take them up on the offer, and they charged us, like, I think the cost to dismantle the house. I later learned, when I went to put something there, and Paul Martin confirmed that it's a very odd piece of property where it's surrounded by the house on the corner's property on both sides. So we own like in the middle of the property, and how I learned was that they had some stuff below our sign, and I was talking to them like one day about that I wanted to get it moved so we could put something in there, and they were like, no, that's our property, you own the part in the middle. And I'm like, great. So I spoke to Linda Collins and Paul Martin, who I happened to see out, and they confirmed that that was indeed true. And so I was going to talk to the lady who owned the house died. Her son was very sick. He had a bunch of tragedy in his life, and so the property just sold. And as I was coming up the hill the other day, I noticed she has fenced off our property. And so I stopped and just chatted with her and said, I'm not sure if you're aware, but this part of the property in the middle belongs to us. And she's like, she has a garden planted there and it's fenced off. And so I'm like, well, would you be interested in a property swap? So that we had land that's continuous, is contiguous with our sign. And so like our property continues down the hill to a certain point, and then it's her property. And she said yes, or I'd consider buying it if you just want to sell me that piece of property. So I feel like it probably makes sense to do one or the other, but I'm not sure if the board has the authority to do that. No, I don't have the authority. I don't know if the board has the authority or if it has to go to the voters to sell it or to do a swap.
Yeah,
okay.
To change the property. So if you look up at the screen, down here at the bottom is the school, and this is Corliss Heights Road where we come in. Get a little closer. This property in question, so the school owns this triangle down Corliss Heights. The school owns this little teeny rectangle right here, and then the landowner that Beth mentioned has this sort of diamond-shaped plot with our little thing cut out.
What are you supposed to do? Hop
Well, yeah,
onto it?
exactly. Well, and I thought, I didn't know there was that little triangle at the top there.
Morgan said it has to go to the voters, right?
And so it's just the sign in that spot?
Well, it's a little below the sign, but then if you'll see, there's some like pallets and the way I found out was I asked them about moving the pallets so that we could put a Gaga pit. We've put our Gaga pit in the back since then. But yeah, that's how I learned about it. And then the property went up for sale. And then when you go down the hill, you notice she has it fenced in. And I mean, they're new neighbors, they're new to the community. I'm not gonna say, hey, that's our, well, I did say, I'm not sure if you're aware, but, and so, but she does have a garden planted there and that is our property.
Should put an outdoor classroom in their garage, in their driveway.
Yeah, I
Just be
mean,
like, we'll just switch
it's
it.
like right in the middle of her property
goodness.
that we own.
Towards
Goodness.
the school, right?
So I think it makes sense to see if she wants to buy it for a certain price, if the voters approve that. And if not, or we do a property swap so that our land isn't in the middle of her land.
That's the property we just got last year, right?
It was a couple of years ago now.
Kevin was still on the board.
Yeah, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago.
I think your intention when you went to the community was about creating that buffer, right? So
Yes,
that
we
you
wanted a buffer.
Right.
And it's one thing if they own the property and they've got it as part of their land, but we didn't want somebody else moving into that house.
Right.
It was kind of in a state of disrepair.
The house was
Yeah.
usually back in, right?
Exactly.
And so it would need to go to the voters. It would make the most sense, I think, to wait until next March when we're already paying to have them come to the polling places. But that certainly gives us plenty of time to negotiate the details with the landowner if you're interested in either a swap or.
What do you prefer, swap or get rid of it altogether?
I'd be fine selling it so that it's all, that she has all of the property, if she would agree to whatever price, like the price we paid for it. If she wouldn't agree with that, then I wonder about just doing a swap for an equal amount of land, so we each have continuous property.
I wonder if in that swap, I mean, it's not a lot of money. So I wonder if it's more mutually beneficial to think about the swap piece so that you do have some buffer beyond.
It would be nice to have a little bit below, and we could get that area, because I don't think that land is very useful to her either. But I think it would cost more money, because I think we would have to have it surveyed, wouldn't you think, Morgan?
Presumably they did all that. Well, yeah, if we're gonna swap it, we're gonna have to have new rights.
Yeah,
Right.
they have to make new boundaries.
Right, we have to make new boundaries.
How much
And if you-
acreage?
there is a kind
Not
of
much.
No,
fairly decent buffer here.
something really small.
Here's the edge of your parking lot, and you do have this.
I mean, there
So
is a
it's
pretty
good to
decent
make
buffer,
those.
because
Yeah.
the sign, we owe a little
Right.
bit below the sign, and that's part of the way down the hill.
Yeah, I think this is probably the sign right here, that's my guess. And there's a telephone pole right here. So if you guys are gonna see it.
So are we looking to decide if it's a sell or swap tonight, or just that we're interested in continuing the conversation?
I would say interesting, continuing, closer to March.
I just need to remember to put it back on.
I'll put it in the next.
Okay.
You want this back in as you're building your budget in October? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And do you, so you are interested in one or the other, right?
Yeah, one or
Okay.
the other, if you could continue working with landowner.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna say, between then and October, maybe kind of working out what the terms are and what we're gonna quote.
Yep, you'll just wanna have that, decided by June.
So I don't forget.
For March. Is October early enough? Would you rather see it come back to you in
September?
September?
Probably September.
Thank you, Courtney.
They can do that.
And I will have I'll find out from Morgan how much we paid for it, and I will talk to her.
Did we pay for that to be torn down too?
Yes. Well, we paid for their expenses. So they didn't really charge us, they just charged us for what it cost to tear it down, right? And to take the stuff away. And that's all I had.
Okay, Jen?
All informational. I wanted to celebrate, we talk about STAR a lot, and in kindergarten, the STAR only really assesses reading. It might have one or two math, but it doesn't really assess the math. So we decided we would try the first grade math with our kids, our kindergarten students, to see where they'd end up. And we were thrilled to see that 88% of our students met the standard or was above. And in kindergarten, the scale goes by our district scale. And this year, we're using state scale when we're looking at, which is a little more stringent. And when we're looking at data, and that was with the state scale, looking at that, we had 88%. So we were thrilled. Kids love doing it, so we're really excited about that. And the other thing I just wanted to show you was, again, we talk about STAR so much, but the big thing is also, it's good for us in progress monitoring, but it's also a way to communicate with parents. So we are sending home their STAR scores, and this is an example where you can see the growth all the way up, that every student, and they're all gonna get one of these showing what their growth was, and from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So I think parents will enjoy seeing that.
That's nice.
Sure. Yeah.
And Rachel, your last one.
And last one. Just want to say thank you again. I've had a really amazing first year. I'm really proud of the school and the teachers and kids, and I miss you guys. Other than that, we have our 8th grade celebration this Friday. We're taking the kids on an end of the year field trip on Monday the 19th. It was our final celebration. That's optional for 8th grade. Sounds like a lot of them want to come anyway. And the last student day is a half day on June 20th. Coming right up.
Okay, and Matt.
I do want to say that I've gotten a lot of support this year from a lot of people, but having Rachel in the building has been phenomenal, and Rachel has been a model for me of confidence and decisiveness, which I'm sure developed over 8 years, but I think a lot of my confidence has grown this year from having a model right in my building, so I'm very grateful, Rachel. The only piece that I had on the board report was regarding an exchange student from Italy. Initially, there was we had to sort out which agency was sponsoring him or what he was going through. Simultaneously, we've been having a discussion about whether to certify this other group called PACS to be a district provider. So what you'll see in the agenda is a request to approve it through PACS, but it turns out the student is going through CIEE, which is already approved by the district. So unless you need to approve us having an exchange student at all.
So what Matt's trying to be kind and not tell you is that I messed with this board note and I changed it because I had the question confused. So we don't need to approve the CIEE exchange student. Matt has the authority to approve that, but what we are going to bring up at our policy committee meeting tomorrow is the PACS program and whether or not we'll approve that as a third option. We did check with the VPA, who is somehow connected, and there's no issue that we were made aware of. With this PACS program, we have a teacher at Enosburg High School who will be the lead sponsor. Right now, we don't have any kids, to my knowledge, who are coming, but they just kind of want to get on the queue as an approvable exchange program. So we'll be looking at the information from PACS tomorrow policy.
He sounds like a very accomplished kid. They send videos and he speaks amazingly and very also, very passionately. And anyway, I'm excited for it.
Okay, Nate.
Yeah, the only thing that I want to highlight is that at the FFA convention, we did have 2 Cold Hollow students, Enosburg Falls High School students, become state officers. So Jesse Allen is now the president of the FFA for the state of Vermont, and Jackson Kuchar is the vice president of the FFA for the state of Vermont. So they'll be doing a lot of leadership, not only at our school, but traveling to other schools and working with their chapters as well. So that's really cool. It's been a long time since we've been represented at that level. So.
That's great. And this board has met Jessie Allen last year when she came to approve the project.
Which is already so pretty.
I got to walk up to the middle school the other day, and I every time I go, it changes a little bit. You can look out into that space in the courtyard. So it's great to see her taking the lead on something like that at the state level as well. Just huge leadership in her.
Okay.
Just a question about graduation. Sarah and Akua, are one of you going or both?
Yeah. What would you prefer? 1, 2, both? Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. If you both want to go, that's great. Really, just one person to represent the board is fine.
That's what I thought. Yeah, he said that last time. So I think we kind of agreed you would, right?
Sure.
I thought that's where we left it, but
Yeah. I'm planning on it.
Yeah.
it's going to be in the program, so I wanted to
Yes.
include the right
Sarah
names.
would be your
Okay,
person.
perfect. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
So I just show up there.
Show up there a little before 11.
Okay. Yeah. This is my, okay.
You can,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll see where our marks are.
Okay. And the speech is very short. Only 10 minutes.
20 minutes.
You'll do great.
They're messing with you. I saw them looking at it. We're totally messing with you.
All right, board business. We do have a board seat coming up for Polly's gonna be leaving us in August, so I'll entertain anybody who wants to run for that. Do it for that.
So Polly will be coming to the August
She will
meeting.
be here.
When Polly and I planned for this meeting, we didn't know she wasn't gonna be at this meeting, so I think she probably has some things she wants to say at the August meeting, but I think Polly also wants to have a really great replacement for her on the board, so I think she wanted that out publicly so that if people had an interest, they could reach out to either her or to Mort. And both of their emails are online. She also could reach out to our central office. Anyone interested could reach out to our central office and we can extend that to Mort and Polly for consideration.
From the town of Enosburg.
They have to be from the town of Enosburg, yes.
So Polly is staying on the board for the summer until the August meeting?
Yeah, August meeting will be when she formally announces that she will be returning. She's going into principal world.
Oh, I know. She'd be,
Yeah.
as a first year principal, I would tell her, you can't be on the school board.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Maybe focus on Nichols.
We'll have to have a vote. Okay.
All right, want to go back into the personal request read?
Sure. Is there something you want in open?
I think we do a couple, or do you want to do executive first and then do the rest of them?
It's so up to you.
All right, we'll go to executive.
Okay.
Okay. Entertain a motion to go executive.
Make the motion.
Okay, Sarah made the motion. Shaylee?
Aye.
Good.
Aye.
And I'm an aye.
Can we spring our principals so that they don't have to wait?
Okay.
Because I don't think we have any business when we come back to
No,
it.
no, we don't. So,
Have a wonderful night, everyone.
you guys. Akua made the motion come out of executive. I'm doing roll. So I'm just looking for yours.
Aye.
Okay. Sarah?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Okay.
Recording in progress.
Okay, get back to personal request. I'm looking for entertained motion to approve Jonah Frankie's request for half a day.
I make a motion.
Okay, cool, make a motion. Shaylee?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, the next one's Eliza Boyle made a request for 2 unpaid. Entertain a motion.
Make the motion.
Okay, Sarah made a motion. Go ahead.
Aye.
Shaylee?
Aye.
Okay. Next one's Rachel Reynolds, for her unused vacation days. I'm looking for approval for that.
I make a motion.
For 10.
For 10?
10 days.
For 10
I
days.
make a motion.
Okay, Sarah?
Aye.
Shaylee?
Aye.
Okay, next one is Caden Juer for 6 unpaid days. Need a motion.
Make the motion.
Okay, Sarah made a motion.
Aye.
Okay, Shaylee?
Aye.
Okay, and the last one is for Doug LaCrosse for, I'd like to disapprove his, for motion.
Make the motion.
Okay,
Aye.
Shaylee?
Aye.
Okay, and I'm an aye.
So just to clarify, you did not approve that last
We did not
request?
approve
Okay.
Doug LaCrosse's, no.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? Any other board business?
One quick question. Do we do board retreats during the summer?
Yes.
Is that in plan?
It is in the plan and it has not been established yet.
Okay.
Michelle Irish and I attended to that the other day, that we had intended to get a date in the books of our sooner than this, so we'll be working on that.
Okay, good. So you'll just send some date
I'll
options?
send something out, yes.
Got it. Okay.
Anything else? I'll entertain a motion to end board.
I make a motion.
Okay. Who made the motion? Shaylee?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. That's it.
So no meeting in July.
New meeting in July.
Nothing.